Japan's longevity expert, 7 stroke warning signs after 60, you only have 3 hours. Would you recognize the signs of a stroke if they happened right now? The next 3 minutes could save your life, or the life of someone you love. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to recognize the 7 critical warning signs of a stroke, signs that can show up to 24 hours before the actual stroke hits. That gives you a precious window to get help and potentially prevent permanent damage. I'll also reveal the one sign that 78% of stroke survivors missed, a sign that could have helped them get treatment hours earlier. Just last year, Margaret from Ohio noticed her husband Thomas struggling to say simple words over breakfast. She remembered a stroke awareness video and immediately called 911. Doctors later confirmed Thomas was having a mini stroke that would have progressed to a major stroke within hours. Let's talk about the first sign, sudden face drooping. Can you smile normally right now? One of the most visible early signs of a stroke is uneven facial muscles. If one side of the face suddenly droops, especially the corner of the mouth or one eyelid, that's a red flag. Doctors at Johns Hopkins Medicine say that facial asymmetry happens in over 80% of stroke cases. Why? Because the part of the brain that controls facial movement loses blood flow in the early stages, often hours before a full-blown stroke. These changes can be subtle at first, maybe just a faint droop or an eyelid that doesn't close properly. But catching them early could be the difference between full recovery and permanent damage. Take Barbara, for example. She asked her husband to smile over coffee one morning. The right side of his mouth wouldn't lift. Within 2 hours, they were in the ER, and doctors were able to stop a major stroke before it happened. Ignoring facial drooping can lead to permanent paralysis and severe brain damage. Why? Because when a stroke hits, the brain loses nearly 2 million cells every minute without treatment. That's why every second counts. Here's a quick test: ask the person to smile big. Then ask them to raise both eyebrows. If one side doesn't move right or looks off, don't wait it out. Call 911 immediately and tell them you suspect a stroke. That helps emergency crews respond faster and more effectively. Second sign, sudden arm weakness. Can you raise both arms and hold them steady for 10 seconds? According to the American Stroke Association, sudden weakness or numbness in one arm, especially if it's only on one side, is a major warning sign. This means the brain's motor areas are starting to lose blood flow. This weakness doesn't always hit like lightning. Sometimes it starts small, maybe your hand feels clumsy, or you struggle to grip things, before turning into obvious weakness or even full paralysis. That's exactly what happened to Richard. He couldn't hold his coffee mug one morning, it kept slipping. His daughter noticed something was off and called 911. Doctors later confirmed it was the start of a stroke. If ignored, that weakness could turn into permanent paralysis within hours. The National Stroke Association says patients treated within the first 3 hours of symptoms have much better outcomes and less disability than those who wait. To test for arm strength, ask the person to extend both arms straight out for 10 seconds. If one arm drifts downward or feels numb or weak, it's time to act. Don't blame it on aging, arthritis, or just being tired. Those assumptions can cost precious time. Call 911 right away. While waiting for help, get the person into a safe, seated or lying down position to avoid a fall. This isn't the time to wait and see. Acting fast can mean the difference between living independently or needing lifelong care. Sign 3, speech difficulties. Can you clearly say a simple phrase right now? According to research from Mayo Clinic, speech problems happen in nearly 80% of stroke cases. When the brain's language centers are affected, you might slur your words, say the wrong ones, or be unable to speak at all. These speech issues often come before more obvious signs like facial drooping or arm weakness. Even mild speech trouble is a serious warning that the brain isn't functioning properly. Susan was getting ready for the day when she noticed her husband Frank slurring his words. She did the fast test and called 911 immediately. Doctors later confirmed he was having a pre-stroke. If speech problems are left untreated, they can become permanent. In just a few hours, the brain damage can be so severe that a person loses their ability to speak, read, or understand language, possibly forever. That can lead to depression, isolation, and a serious drop in quality of life. Here's a quick test. Ask the person to repeat a simple sentence like, "The sky is blue today." Listen closely. Are they slurring? Using the wrong words? Struggling to get the words out? If you hear anything unusual, especially if it started suddenly, don't brush it off as tiredness or age. Call emergency services immediately. Keep the person calm and still while you wait. Getting help fast can preserve the ability to communicate, a priceless gift that affects every part of life. Sign 4. Sudden, severe headache. A sudden, intense headache that feels like the worst headache of your life is a serious warning sign that often gets ignored. Neurologists at Harvard Medical School say about 15% of strokes start with a headache like this, often due to a spike in blood pressure or even bleeding inside the brain. This type of headache, sometimes called a thunderclap headache, reaches full intensity within seconds or minutes. It usually feels very different from normal headaches or even migraines. That difference is key. Elizabeth ignored her sudden thunderclap headache while working in the garden. 4 hours later, her husband found her unconscious. She'd suffered a massive stroke. Ignoring this kind of headache can lead to a hemorrhagic stroke, a more deadly type caused by bleeding in the brain. At this point, blood vessels in the brain may have already ruptured, causing a brain hemorrhage, a life-threatening complication. If you or someone close to you experiences a sudden, intense headache, one that feels totally different from any previous headaches, don't ignore it. Call emergency services immediately, and avoid taking painkillers. Delaying action can make the situation irreversible. Sign number 5, sudden vision loss. Are things suddenly looking blurry, dark, or disappearing from one side? Vision problems, whether in one or both eyes, are often overlooked, but they're a critical red flag. When blood flow to the part of the brain that controls sight is restricted, you might experience blurry vision, double vision, or total loss of vision in one eye. Here's the scary part: many people mistake this for simple eye strain or fatigue. Robert, a truck driver, recalls waking up one morning and noticing that everything in his left eye had gone black, like a curtain had dropped. Thankfully, a coworker who'd learned about stroke signs urged him to call 911. That decision likely saved Robert from a major stroke just hours later. If someone says, "I suddenly can't see clearly, everything looks fuzzy," or "it's like a fog over my eyes," think stroke. Don't suggest they rest or wait it out. Call emergency services right away. Sign number 6, sudden loss of balance or unusual dizziness. Are you feeling off balance, dizzy, or struggling to stay upright? Symptoms like stumbling, difficulty walking, or spinning sensations, especially when they come out of nowhere, could mean the cerebellum, the balance center of the brain, isn't getting enough blood. The danger here is that people often brush it off as standing up too fast or being tired. But if it hits suddenly and feels strange or extreme, take it seriously. Tracy, an office worker, said she suddenly couldn't walk straight, and the room felt like it was spinning. Luckily, a coworker noticed and called 911. Tracy was later diagnosed with a pre-stroke condition and treated in time. Here's the rule: if balance issues happen alongside slurred speech, a weak arm, or a drooping face, assume stroke. Time is not on your side. Sign number 7, extreme fatigue with no clear reason. Ever felt so exhausted you couldn't get out of bed, even after a full night's sleep? Extreme fatigue, the kind that feels completely out of the ordinary, is a warning sign that most people don't associate with stroke. But when the brain isn't getting enough oxygen-rich blood, the body starts to shut down. You'll feel drained, mentally foggy, and like everything is a struggle. Here's what's shocking: 78% of stroke survivors experienced this sign and didn't recognize it. Most blamed it on stress, a busy week, or lack of sleep. Julia, a mother of 3, said she felt like she was melting into the couch, completely wiped out. She ignored it. Just 3 hours later, she collapsed in the kitchen from a stroke, right in front of her kids. If you or someone you know feels overwhelming, unexplained fatigue, especially with any of the signs we've mentioned, treat it as a giant red flag. Don't wait. Don't make coffee. Call 911 immediately. Quick recap, remember the FAST test. F. Face. Is the face drooping on one side? Arms. Can they raise both arms evenly? S. Speech. Are they slurring, mixing up words, or struggling to speak? T. Time. If any signs are present, it's time to call 911 now. With every passing minute, the brain loses millions of cells it can never recover. Don't let hesitation cost someone their life, independence, or memories. Share this video with the people you care about. You might save a life just by helping them recognize the early warning signs of a stroke.